Welcome to your favorite channel, where real lives unfold with the intensity of cinema. Today we bring you the untold journey of the little couple stars Jen Arnold and Bill Klein's son, Will Klein. A story that begins with heartbreak but slowly transforms into love, courage, and a life-changing destiny. It all started with an exam that did not go as planned. Will Klein, carrying the pressure of expectations from her family, failed. The result hit the Klein household like a heavy storm. Jen Arnold and Bill Klein, who had always believed strongly in education, were deeply disappointed. The silence in the home said everything. It felt like a dream they had built for their child had suddenly cracked. Instead of continuing to push Will into a path that was causing her pain, the family made a difficult decision. They began to wonder if her future truly belonged in classrooms, or if life was meant to take her in a different direction. They believed she might be better suited to building a future outside of academics. What they did not know was that Will had already begun writing her own story. For more than a year, she had been secretly in a relationship with Tori, a girl who stood by her through every emotional struggle. Their love had grown quietly, away from the eyes of the family, but it was strong, real, and deeply emotional. From heartbreak to a hidden romance, from family pressure to personal truth, Will's life was about to change forever. What began as disappointment slowly turned into a new beginning, one that would lead her toward love, courage, and honesty. The failure of the exam was a painful moment for everyone in the Klein household. Jen sat quietly, trying to hold back her emotions. Bill walked slowly, thinking about what this meant for their daughter's future. Will herself felt overwhelmed, carrying the weight of sadness and pressure at the same time. For a family that had always celebrated success, this moment felt different. It was not just about grades. It was about expectations, dreams, and the future they had imagined for Will. The house felt unusually quiet, as if everyone was trying to understand what came next. Days passed, but the tension remained. Conversations became short and careful. The family kept thinking about the same question again and again. Should they push Will to try again, or accept that her path might be different from what they originally planned? One evening, Bill finally spoke after long silence. He said they had to think differently. He explained that maybe education was not the only path for Will, and that forcing her could bring more pain than success. Jen listened carefully, struggling with emotion, but slowly agreed. The idea of marriage came into discussion as a possible new direction. They believed that instead of continuing academic pressure, Will could find stability and happiness in a different kind of future. It was not an easy decision, but it felt like a solution to their uncertainty. When Will heard this, she felt mixed emotions. On one side, she felt relief that the pressure of exams might end. On the other side, the idea of marriage felt sudden and unfamiliar. It was not something she had imagined for herself at this stage of life. While her parents started thinking about possible matches and future arrangements, Will was already living a completely different reality in secret. Her relationship with Tori had been growing quietly for over a year, built on trust, understanding, and emotional support. Tori had been there through every struggle, every moment of doubt, every failure, every tear was shared with her. Their bond grew stronger through conversations, late-night talks, and emotional support that neither of them found elsewhere. But the relationship remained hidden. Will knew her family valued tradition and expectations. She feared their reaction if they discovered the truth. So she kept her love for Tori private, protecting it from judgment and misunderstanding. Even in secrecy, their relationship felt real and meaningful. Every message, every meeting, and every shared moment carried deep emotion. They dreamed of a future where they could finally be open and accepted without fear. Tori always reassured Will that one day their truth would come out and everything would fall into place. But that day felt far away until the pressure from the Klein family began to grow. As Jen and Bill continued discussing marriage plans, Will realized she could no longer stay silent. The idea of being matched with someone she did not love felt impossible. Her heart already belonged to someone else. One evening, the family gathered together, and Will knew it was the moment to speak. Her hands were shaking, and her voice was nervous, but she finally said she had something important to share. Jen and Bill immediately sensed that something serious was coming. The atmosphere in the room changed. Will took a deep breath and began to explain that she had been in a relationship for a year. She revealed that her partner was Tori, someone she truly loved and trusted. The words fell heavily in the room, changing everything in an instant. The secret that had been hidden for so long was finally out. Jen and Bill were shocked. They did not expect this truth, especially at a time when they were planning a completely different future for her. Emotions filled the room as they tried to process what they had just heard. Will continued speaking, explaining how important Tori was to her and how real their relationship felt. She shared how Tori had supported her through her hardest moments and how deeply connected they were. The family struggled to respond immediately. It was not just about relationships, but about understanding a truth they had never seen before. Silence filled the room again, but this time it was different. It was the silence of shock, emotion, and reflection. Everything had changed in one moment. The plans for an arranged future no longer made sense in the same way. The truth had come forward, and now the family had to decide how to move forward with love, acceptance, and understanding to her. The room fell completely silent. Jen's eyes widened in shock, and Bill's expression hardened as he tried to process what he had just heard. For a few seconds, nobody spoke. The air in the room felt heavy, filled with disbelief and emotion. The carefully planned idea of an arranged marriage had suddenly been interrupted by a truth they never expected. Jen was the first to speak, her voice soft but shaking. Stood up and began walking around the room, trying to make sense of everything. His thoughts were filled with confusion, tradition, and concern, but also with the honesty he could hear in his daughter's voice. After a long pause, he finally stopped and looked at her. "You should have told us sooner," he said calmly. "But if this is real love, then we need to meet her." That simple statement changed everything. The tension in the room did not disappear, but it shifted. The arranged marriage plans that once felt so important were no longer relevant. The truth had come out, and now a new direction was forming for the family. What followed was not easy, but it was necessary. The silence had been broken, and although emotions were still high, the family slowly began to understand that Will's heart had already chosen her path. Everything was about to change. The days after the reveal felt different in the Klein household. The heavy sadness that once filled the home began to shift into curiosity and quiet reflection. Jen and Bill were still processing everything, but they decided to open their minds and accept the reality of their daughter's relationship. Soon, plans that once focused on arranged marriage disappeared completely. Instead, attention turned towards something new and unexpected. Will and Tori's relationship was no longer hidden. It was real, open, and about to be accepted by both families. The engagement moment arrived like a new beginning. The house was filled with soft light, decorations, and a warm atmosphere. Guests arrived with excitement, curious to witness the transformation of a secret relationship into something official and celebrated. Arnold greeted everyone with a calm smile, trying to balance pride and emotion. Bill Klein stood nearby, still adjusting to everything that had happened, but clearly trying to support his daughter. The focus of the day was no longer disappointment or failure. It was love and acceptance. When Will entered the room holding Tori's hand, everything changed. Conversation stopped, and all attention turned toward them. After so long in secrecy, they finally stood together openly. There was confidence in their presence, but also emotion in their eyes. Their connection was clear. Every small gesture showed the bond they had built in private for over a year. Now they were no longer hiding. They were standing proudly in front of family and friends. The engagement ceremony moved forward with deep emotion. Rings were exchanged, promises were made, and tears were shed. Jen watched her daughter carefully, her eyes filled with mixed emotions of pride and realization. Bill, though still quiet, showed acceptance in his own way by staying close and supportive. Tori's family also joined the celebration, bringing warmth and comfort to the moment. The two families slowly came together, sharing smiles and conversations, turning what once was secrecy into unity. As the ceremony continued, speeches were given and emotions flowed freely. The engagement was not just a formal event. It became a symbol of change, acceptance, and emotional growth. Will was no longer seen through the lens of failure. She was now seen as someone who had chosen her own future with courage. By the end of the night, guests began to leave, but the feeling of the moment remained strong. Will and Tori stood together quietly, realizing that their relationship had finally been accepted. It was the beginning of a new life chapter.